My problem with the idea of India per se is that it makes us believe that this country is the creation of maybe constitution, freedom struggle, Gandhi, Nehru. That's where the basic some of the questions are left unanswered. The landmass which got divided from India in 1947, that is Pakistan and today's Bangladesh. Why they are not secular today? Why they are not liberal today? The answer is somewhere deeper that, and that's where the idea of Bharat comes into the thing. It automatically connects you with our civilization too. It gives us the identity. Who we are. That question, we as an individual also we keep on asking ourselves. The moment he has got some intelligence, some understanding of the world, he asks, who am I? The proponent of the idea of India, they somehow believe that you don't need that. They believe that that we can just forget our past. Maybe I think they are positive about their past in certain ways, and they believe that everything good that happened after independence.
We are a long civilization, 5000 से ज़्यादा साल की हमारी civilization है, और इतना पुराना होते हुए भी वो speeches देनी पड़ रही हैं और लोगों को जगाना पड़ रहा है. It's telling us what had gone wrong or how terribly wrong it had gone.
We have been lucky ones. We have been chosen few ones. We survived despite so much going against this civilization entity called in Bharat.
नमस्कार, हेलो. एक और रिकॉर्डिंग में, एक और पॉडकास्ट रिकॉर्डिंग में आपका स्वागत है. आज मेरे साथ हैं मित्र और लॉन्ग टाइम जर्नलिस्ट उत्पल जी. उत्पल जी ने एक किताब लिखी है, भारत राइजिंग, धर्मा, डेमोक्रेसी, डिप्लोमेसी. डेमोक्रेसी एंड डिप्लोमेसी नहीं है, डेमोक्रेसी डिप्लोमेसी. एंड हम दोनों एक दूसरे को काफ़ी समय से जानते हैं. मेरा सौभाग्य है, मैं फर्स्ट पोस्ट में लिखता भी हूँ. डी लिट फेस्ट पे भी आपसे लास्ट टाइम मुलाकात हुई थी. So, and in general, I'm aware of your ideas, your opinions, and we've had long conversations on multitudes of topics. Which is why I thought, एक तो किताब आई है आपकी, it's very important कि it gets the right traction also. But because I've had an opportunity to read the book and the different essays in the book, I get a sense कि this calls for a longer conversation. क्योंकि किताब के अंदर जो अपने अलग अलग टॉपिक्स को डिस्कस किया है, उन सबको एक लॉन्गर एक कॉन्वर्सेशन के अंदर जैसे शायद छोटी बाइट से निकाली जाए, वो इम्पोर्टेंट है. तो इसलिए इस वजह से आज हम यहाँ बैठे हैं. तो वेलकम टू आवर
थैंक यू
स्मॉल सेटअप एंड वी आर ट्राइंग हार्ड टू मेक इट बिग, बट थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर कमिंग ऑन द शो. स्टार्ट यहीं से करते हैं. हमारी ऑडियंस को आप अपना परिचय दीजिए. टेल अस अबाउट योरसेल्फ.
आई एम उत्पल कुमार. सो आई वाज बोर्न इन बिहार. I did my schooling in Nagaland.
So you're born in Bihar. Where in Bihar are you?
Bihar, Katihar.
Katihar,
yeah.
And how come you did your schooling in Nagaland?
My father was there. So my father was the principal of Science College, Kohima, the only science college in the state. So he was there. So I insisted joining him. But my mother used to stay in Bihar with my two other brothers. So yeah, that was a great experience. So I stayed there for almost 5 years, 4.5, 5 years. And after that, I came to Delhi, did my Delhi University joined. I did my master's here. And then
what did you study?
Ramjas College.
Ramjas. As in, what did you study?
History was my master's subject. Yeah. So yeah, that's where you can see that history has been quite a predominant theme in my book also.
Yes. Yes.
So and then I joined journalism, and I was lucky enough to be given break by Chandan Mitra. I used to write even before joining. So that's where it came. So initially I thought of, like most Biharis, thought of trying for civil services, but didn't even try give one attempt.
You did not give one attempt?
Not even one.
Ramjas History College.
Yeah, not
Bihari
even one.
boy did not give up.
I was completely wooed by journalism. I thought we'll change the world, and that remained for few years, and then.
So you started journalism when then?
2003.
तो हाँ, यू चेंज द वर्ल्ड. 2014 के अंदर सरकार पलट गई.
Yeah, absolutely. In a decade, yeah.
देश का उदय हुआ. In fact, so journalism में where all of you worked since?
I started with Pioneer. The Pioneer with the late Chandan Mitra, and then I had two stints there. Basically, first I started there in the news desk, and then became part of their opinion desk. After almost like 4 years, I left and joined Hindustan Times. The news desk. There, desk job because don't write much. Your job is just to create the content for the news pages, which is quite challenging. So I didn't like much. So then again, I was fortunate enough that Chandan Mitra and his wife Sobari Ganguly, who is currently the editor-in-chief. She offered me to lead their Sunday magazine agenda, which was quite a popular weekly supplement. So yeah, then I was there for 4 years, and after that I joined Mail Today for almost 5 years. There I was a Sunday editor, books
So you've
editor.
essentially seen that transition where paper was more important than digital platforms.
Absolutely. Like this is my first this thing where I'm part of a digital world. So yes, of course, I have seen that. Very reluctantly, we all shifted, but I think that's what the future is. I mean, we have
But
to
what do you
accept.
think? वो readership के अंदर कोई change आया है?
Yeah, not just readership, also the nature of news making has changed. Today, everything is available on Twitter first. So my point is, if you want to survive, you have to go beyond just news. You have to maybe explain news within the same day, within the same as early as possible. What Firstpost initially used to do, and they would just initially, they will not just report; they will also analyze it in some way. So that's where I think the future. People want to know more because everything now gets broken on social media.
So essentially वो
Yeah. So that's where the challenge is. I mean, like television is facing the challenge. Television is does after social media does. So they will have to go beyond just reporting that this happened, that happened, why happened, or that thing should happen, and that I believe is the challenge right now.
So basically a merger of journalistic practices with academic or intellectualism. आपको analysis अगर देना है, opinion देना है, तो it cannot happen if you've not had a solid background into research.
Exactly.
History और political science जिसने नहीं पढ़ा, तो वो बहुत ज़्यादा वजन उसमें नहीं ले पाएगा अगर सिर्फ रिपोर्टाज है उसमें.
So it has to be news plus.
It has been news.
Yeah.
ठीक. But then how come ये book का idea कहाँ से आया? And क्योंकि book का नाम जो है वो भारत राइजिंग, it is not India Rising. And which also brings us to 2004 also.
Yes.
But it is Bharat Rising.
I'll very categorical enough to say that I have nothing against the term India, and I've said on multiple platforms that that India or make in India is something we created with a lot of effort. So we should have it, and we should actually sell that too. In fact, I believe that Indic way of life, we don't need one way or one thing or one idea of a nation to. We can have thousands of ideas. So that apart, my problem with the idea of India per se is that it makes us believe that this country is a creation of maybe Constitution, freedom struggle, Gandhi, Nehru, and that's where the basic some of the questions are left unanswered. Like for instance, if that is the case, why did the landmass which got divided from India in 1947, that is Pakistan and today's Bangladesh, why they are not secular today? Why they are not liberal today? So the answer is somewhere deeper that, and that's where the idea of Bharat comes into the thing. The moment you get into the idea of Bharat, then it automatically connects you with our civilizational roots.
Okay.
It takes you back to our millennia-old, cultural moorings and our. So basically, it gives us the identity, who we are, and that question we as an individual also we keep on asking ourselves. Every person, the moment he has got some intelligence, some understanding of the world, he asks, "Who am I?" And that question, as a civilization, also as a culture, also as a nation, also we tend to ask. And but then the proponent of the idea of India, they somehow believe that you don't need that.
Okay.
And they believe that that we can just forget our past. Maybe I think they are positive about their past in certain ways, and they believe that everything good that happened after independence.
No, but drawing this to your journey as well as constitutionally we are India, that is Bharat. तो ये बात तो ऑलरेडी एस्टैब्लिश्ड है कि दोनों नाम ही हमारे देश के लिए हम यूज़ कर सकते हैं, इंटरचेंजेबली यूज़ करें. पर जो भारत नाम आया है और जो भारत का वो उसको ज़्यादा उसका यूसेज इंक्रीज हुआ है, उससे आई थिंक द लार्जर आइडिया वन ऑफ कोर्स एंड पिकिंग अप फ्रॉम वेरी क्लोज कि ये अपने सिविलाइजेशन रूट से कनेक्ट करने का एक माध्यम भी बन रहा है. हाउएवर आई वांट यू टू टेल अस कि कैसे, मतलब हाउ डिड दिस Bihari boy educated in Nagaland got related to this idea, because this has not been in working perhaps पिछले 4 साल से तो आपने वर्क किया नहीं इस आइडिया पे, you had been dabbling or working with India for the longest time. Bharat, you don't have anything against India, the usage of the word India, but भारत यूसेज के बारे में अगर आप और पुश करते हैं, वो थॉट कहाँ से जनरेट हुआ? एंड देन आई वांट यू टू टेल अस अबाउट कि ये बुक का आइडिया कैसे आया?
So basically, I see two questions there. Why Bharat I use it, and how did I get the idea? Let me start with the second one. I think my experience is not exceptional in that way. In fact, the entire country, if you see, there is a sense of awakening about their past. Everyone. I went to just a couple of days back. I was in the Banaras Ghat, and I saw the Ghat was full of people, young person like me. In fact, they also brought their kids, 2-year, 3-year, 4-year kids. They was all across the Ghat, and that was something which I thought was I didn't so well, last time I went almost like a 12 years back or 30 years back, where it was more synonymous with old people, with people who have seen everything and done and dusted with their life. So, but why is this happening? When I sat there in the Ghat, now it's very clean, and you want to sit there, you want to enjoy. So you feel pride to see that that's the same Ghat which earlier it was so difficult walking. I remember my mother-in-law saying that she is scared of going because she would see the other cow or bull coming from the other side and she don't know how to escape it. So I said now it's quite corridor, it's quite big, so you can have fun. But on the larger question, when we see those young people, those people are not just there for travel. They are also exploring their past, and they are not apologetic about it. That's what it is. And you may take it like some people take it in a negative connotation that Hindu supremacist, Hindu assertion is happening. I said that Hindu is waking up after years of inertia, years of being put down, years of being apologetic about their past. In fact, I in 80s I remember in Bihar. The one slogan used to be very prominently put by RSS or people with a nationalist feeling, whether गर्व से कहो हम हिंदू हैं. And if you decode that slogan, that was sign of thing that you are very scared about your existence.
Yes.
You don't have to say गर्व से कहो हम हिंदू because this is an obvious thing.
In fact, अगर वो बाबरी मस्जिद वाले वो जो स्पीचेस साध्वी रतंबरा की जो स्पीचेस आती हैं जिसके अंदर वो गर्व से कहो हम हिंदू हैं, हिंदुस्तान हमारा है, तो वो आइडिया जो है वो क्यों इतने सालों बाद, मतलब वी आर अ लॉन्ग सिविलाइजेशन, 5000 से ज़्यादा साल की हमारी सिविलाइजेशन है, पर इतना पुराना होते हुए भी वो स्पीचेस देनी पड़ रही हैं और लोगों को जगाना पड़ रहा है, इज टेलिंग ऑफ what had gone wrong or how terribly wrong it had gone. So yes, please.
In fact, I will take it in a different way, Arjun. I believe that we have been lucky ones. We have been chosen few ones who survived despite so much going against this civilization entity called in Bharat. We have lost quite a bit. In fact, unfortunately, most of Indians, they don't have the idea of what they lost. They believe that we just lost landmarks in 1947. We lost much more than that civilization, and the loss has been happening for the last 2 millennium years. In fact, you see the Sanskrit civilization, entire Central Asia was Sanskrit civilization, Khotan and all these places.
The entire Central Asia was Sanskrit civilization.
Sanskrit civilization. You find Sanskrit manuscript now, hidden in the desert, in the Xinjiang region, where China is committing all sort of crime against this minority Muslims. There, the Khotan is there, and in fact, Khotan is founded by Ashoka, if I'm not wrong. So my point is, our civilization, our Central Asian civilization, we forgot as early as 10th century. Our rulers, Hindu Sahis, they were the rulers of Afghanistan, and they fought Muslim army inch by inch. And you read that history, fascinating. We are not told that history. Every time they get lost, and that's a different. You look for different interpretation why they kept on losing. But what you have to admire that they kept losing and they kept fighting for every inch they fought.
So rather than they were losing, they were fighting.
They were fighting, and it was a constant fight. Like the history we are told, our history is more like that Mughals, Muslims came, saw, and they conquered us. Far from it.
Far from it, yes.
And you see, in 100 years after Prophet Muhammad's death, the Islamic army was in Spain, inside Spain. It took them 5 centuries to reach Delhi. And when I say they reached Delhi also, and that's where my own understanding is that Muslims and Mughals, they didn't do much harm civilization to this country what British did. These forces were confined to cities, garrisons, and they were always in that they will go conquer, come back. So the village structure was always there, strongly remained the way it was. It was stress was there, no doubt. Like our marriages started happening in the night. There were reasons for that. But the kind of damage which British did through their through their plan, they first invaded our mind, they invaded our villages, to overly taxed us. Like Bengal, for instance, one of the most prosperous regions in the world. They saw first famine within 10 years of Battle of Plassey. You can say what happened. That was so.
So you're arguing that even when, so one, it is clearly understood that civilizational conflict and battle was going on.
Yeah.
उसका consequence है कि देश के अंदर इस्लामिक in the name of क्योंकि जिहाद के सेंस में हो रहा था कि जिहाद हो रहा था and there were Islamic invasions that were going on. It took them a long time to come to important power centers. बट पावर सेंटर्स में आने के बाद भी आपका कहना ये है कि लार्जली रिपब्लिक स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ द विलेज वाज नॉट mangled or damaged.
It was not damaged to a large extent.
But conversions were there.
Conversions happening, yes, of course.
Because without conversion, temple destruction and conversions were going on in that entire phase.
So that can happen. See what happened. For instance, see what Muhammad al-Ghazni did. It was a raid. It was not he didn't conquer. He raided. He took the path, raided, and went back. Looted everything. It was more like that. So when you raid certain things, then you can just go and come back. More like what robbers do. But logistically, you see, unfortunately, our history is also very badly written from the Delhi's perspective. But Sultan's ruler, for instance, in 80 years or 100 years, if I'm not wrong, 8 sultans changed their rules.
Absolutely.
And every time new sultan will come, they'll have to win again from the regions adjacent to Delhi.
Yes.
So it was like that. जैसे वो मरे वापस आ गए, फिर से बलवान भगाया, फिर वो मरा, फिर से वापस आ गए. So look at the fight, look at the spirit.
So what you're arguing कि सल्तनत पीरियड के अंदर पूरे के अंदर ही consistently, and I think this sets us apart. This sets सल्तनत पीरियड apart from the Mughal period as well. कि सल्तनत पीरियड के अंदर कैसे रिपीटेडली, मतलब दे वाज नॉट लार्ज और लॉन्ग पीरियड ऑफ टाइम जहाँ पे पीसफुली दे आर डोमिनेटिंग द किंगडम. वो सल्तनत पीरियड के अंदर वी हैव सीन कंसिस्टेंटली आ जा रहे हैं. एंड देन एट द सेम टाइम आई एग्री विद योर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू कि कैसे जो हमारा इतिहास है वो लिखा ही एक तो इस तरह से लिखा हुआ है कि दीज आर द बैटल्स दैट वी लॉस्ट.
We jump actually, 712 Muhammad Qasim came, 1025 Muhammad bin. What happened in 300? No one knows about it.
Because in these 300 years, essentially, there could easily be around 16, 17 generations of people who fought and defended these lands.
Exactly. Like the story of Multan you read, my friend, Sandeep Balakrishna wrote a brilliant book on that, that phase of the Muslim invasion and Indian resistance. Multan, which is called Mulstan. It's amazing history about it. How when they were captured, they were reduced to nothing within 50 years, and Hindus were completely dominant. But then we are not told about that part. Our resistance is not told. We are made to believe that we are meek civilization, where anybody and everybody came and conquered us, and that has been the case since the time of so-called Aryan invasion migration theory. So our history has been, that's another area of debate,
No, but then
where I also mentioned that this is like a railway station where everyone came and
वो इसी तरह से लिखा हुआ है, right? But I get this point of view कि for the longest time Mughals were coming in, the Sultanate period was going on, there was massive resistance which was also existing, but at no point did they conquer our minds or spirits. There was fierce resistance, and as a consequence of those resistances there were battles. Many of them we won, many of them we lost, but largely the idea of Bharat and the idea of the civilization or Hindu faith and Hindu civilization वो बहुत prominently चल रहा था और prosper कर रहा था, uninterrupted prosper कर रहा था. You argue कि वो disruption आना start हुआ है because of the British. Because एक large civilizational history है इंडिया की, वो उसका context mix होने लगा. So when do you think that began?
I will not say this. Disruption started with the Muslim invasion.
Okay.
Completely kind of uprooted by the time British came. They completely uprooted it. And you read the book by The Beautiful Tree. And then you find that Dharmapalji's books, it's a magnum opus book. And you find out that our education system, this Bengal has 1 lakh schools. And this we are not recording. British administrators have referred. There were schools in all villages of Bengal. Today we don't have. Today also we don't have. And this is not something which Dharmapal is quoting from Dharma Shastra. He's quoting from what British had recorded. British officials have recorded. And interestingly, the so-called lower caste, domes and all these things, they were also part of the education system. They used to go and study. They had a significant representation into their schools. And not just Brahmins kids will study there. All castes had a different representation there. We are not told, and it is there. It is there.
But how was the representation?
It's quite high. I don't have the numbers right now, but
not in terms of numbers. मैं जानना चाह रहा हूँ आपसे कि you said कि there were schools which are open to all castes. There was no caste discrimination as such. Which brings us to another idea. So we agree that Varnashram and Jati Pratha has been in the society for the longest time. But was it discriminating in any sense, or was it just an identification or identity?
Exactly. That's where I think we get it wrong sometimes, that we believe that when the wars of caste system started in certain ways, one caste proliferated after the invasion started happening. When there was stress in the societies and they started confining among themselves to skip. That's what happens, like Al-Biruni says that when Mahmud Ghazni attacked India, Hindu society became like atoms scattered across. In some way they were true, because they had not seen this kind of violence. Earlier what used to happen that there was a set rule of even warfare, and that's where we faltered. I mean, that's again a different set of argument, and we can argue in different space. But we didn't see this kind of warfare before. When we thought we admired people like Prithviraj Chauhan, saying that okay, the enemy is running and I'll not hit back. And here the other enemy were there, were willing to attack in night and do whatever possible and take back all your women and civilian population. So this warfare, I think, is also lack of imagination on part of these people, where they couldn't understand the enemy for quite a long time. They couldn't
How long would you say? Quite long time, because we are trying to differentiate between hundreds of years versus 2 episodes.
If you see how Gandhi behaved, I think we didn't even realize till the 20th century how to deal with them. And I can understand why it happened, because it's very difficult. See, if you ask a common Hindu and say they relate a divine thing, religion, dharma, with something which is very pure, which is something, so there's no space of violence per se. Now, if another set of ideology comes where, it is based on violence, it is based on thing that, that there is one set of people and the other set of people, and there is no salvation for the other set of people. They will be doomed for hell, howsoever good it is. Even Gandhi was not supposed to. That's what, his beloved Khilafat movement associate said. Even Gandhi, despite being such a holy person, will not be find place in heaven. He will be in hell. He has to burn through the thing. So when this kind of ideology is very difficult for a common mindset. I mean, like today also very difficult. People find it very difficult to understand that exactly ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है?
कोई इतना बुरा कैसे हो सकता है? कोई इतना
धार्मिक चीज
राक्षसी कैसे हो सकता है?
धार्मिक चीज में ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? या कहीं ऐसा गलत नहीं वो उस इंसान की गलती होगी. Ideologically वहाँ कोई गलती नहीं हुआ. People do argue still, that argument is still there, but change is happening. अब उसका एक side effect ये भी हो रहा है कि certain people are also trying to ape the Abrahamic religion and trying to be like that. That is also happening, where they are doing the same thing, same kind of mistake which Abrahamic forces do. But then that will happen. See,
it's part of learning also. For Dharmic civilization, it's part of learning as well.
Learning also part of reaction. there will be some reaction. You know, some people will try to ape their, you know, the perpetrators.
No,
But largely, it's a very the awakening is very positive, very constructive.
but when do you think Hindu society became so apologetic about its attitudes and ways? Is it because of because after the British uprooted us from our dharmic sense or Hindutva sense, or did what they were not really able to uproot it, but only a select group of people or the elites of the society, they got uprooted and they became, you know, the flag bearers of the civilization?
See, there are two aspects to that, and the other aspect is, I think, is glad that happened. There has always been India and Bharat in this country, if you see it.
Always.
Always, but from the time of British, I'm saying.
Okay.
And when I say India, all the aristocratic, you know, Bengali babus and all these people, you know, who are willing to ape British from their dresses to their mind to their ideology to their religion also. Like Brahmo Samaj, I have a huge respect for Ramakrishna, Raja Ram Mohan Roy. But if you see Brahmo Samaj, basic this thing, it's apologetic in nature. They want to say that, oh, we also believe in one God, and trying to tom-tom about that was more of an apologia to how, you know, to their colonial master to act to it.
No, so
But the good part is that majority of the Hindus, they stayed back in village, completely uprooted, completely depraved, illiterate. So they could not be kind of, you know, influenced much with that ideology. That part of the population is coming up now.
So I want to help trace it properly. 1600s is when the Europeans were in India. The English also came in around 1600, if I'm correct.
62.
1600s say 150 years, around 1750 we would say Bengal is theirs, Bihar is theirs.
1757 was the Battle of Plassey, yes.
Right. 1761 के अंदर still जो northern India है, Delhi and the confines, they were still being dominated by the Mughals, and the Maratha conflict was going on. Marathas were also fairly powerful because 1707, if I'm right, एक बहुत major change है, Aurangzeb was dead by then. तो दिल्ली के throne पर बड़ा बदलाव एक आ रहा था. From 1707 till 1750s, there were multitudes of powers in play in India, which Jajnath Sarkar also argues as anarchy. एक अच्छा phase चल रहा था जिसके अंदर अच्छा in the sense के बहुत massive conflicts चल रहे थे. There were Mughals, there were Marathas, there were French, there were English, there were Jats, there were many other powers which are taking shape as the Mughal throne or the Mughal power had started to decline. You say कि 1830s के अंदर when Raja Ram Mohan Roy came in, 1757 हमने मान लिया बंगाल के अंदर dominance हो गया. English had established themselves there. So from 1757 till 1830s, when Brahmo Samaj or Raja Ram Mohan Roy was a major force in Bengal then, it's a span of say around 50 years.
Yes.
तो 50 साल के अंदर you are arguing in Bengal, Bihar, the English had established such solid roots that एक नया elite निकल के आने लगा who was detached from what Bharat is. Okay. And you are also arguing कि जिस तरह से बंगाल में हुआ उसी तरह से बाकी देश में हुआ, because in 1803 if I'm right, second Anglo-Maratha war happened where Delhi और Delhi के जो environments हैं वो सारे के सारे were conquered by the English forces. But when the English forces came in, they brought in their own set of systems, practices, revenue administration, judiciary and all that. Do you think what do you think are the reasons why this essentially happened, or how did it take shape? Because ब्रह्मो समाज का तो टाइम है, वहीं से हम देखते हैं कि वो मेजर शिफ्ट आना स्टार्ट हो जाता है where Indians or common people or at least people who want to rise in their life who are aspirational, they sort of had to project an image, or they had to propagate that they are not very Bharatiya or very rooted in the sense. Okay, it became very in order to do well in life you have to speak English. वैसे वाली चीज़ जो आइडिया था, तो वो वाला चीज़ आप कहते हो 1830 से आना स्टार्ट हो गया था and essentially आया because of the British ways and practices. So what were those British ways and practices then?
See, let's first look at how they came. I'll just I'll take few months on that. When British first came India, it was Jahangir's rule. When this British king sent his ambassador, and he found it difficult to even meet Jahangir. And when Jahangir for the first time met, he was not at all impressed. He thought that they were completely classless people. aesthetics, no sense of aesthetics, nothing. From there, if you see next 100 years, about which Delipper wrote quite nicely in his book, The White Mughals. From there to till 100 years, till say 1750s, there was a class of British who looked at India with a lot of respect, and that's why you see people like people translating Indian texts and everything and saying that uh, so they saw this country more of from the prism of the genesis of civilization. Initially, they also aped their dresses. Like there were many British officers who used to dress like Nawabs and marry 10 women and everything. Change happened started happening later, second half of it, when they realized that they can't be aping the people they are ruling. So they will have to project themselves as a higher civilization, as a civilizational force. So there, what happened that the literature started changing shape, and we were told that there's nothing in Indian this literature which is worth reading or writing. So that was a slow process.
When do you think this shift in the English ways of functioning started?
See, I'll tell you this English education policy, 1835, where they said that Macaulay, we create a class of people who will be brown in color, but with British taste and British sensibility and all these things. So before that, there was a long tussle between Orientalists and the English. There were some people who, among the British, who said, let's have a Sanskrit as a medium of education. And there were other, later Macaulay, who pushed for the English. Now, when this section won, it completely, started painting everything dark about this country. Okay. And we had got some benefit out of it, which you will get for anything. Anything, even the worst of the thing, even the rise of Hitler will have some good consequences for German society, so that today they know what the consequences of having a dictator like him. Mm-hmm. So there might be some good consequences that we had an English education and we at least have, but it completely depraved the country, made it hollow from inside. It was broken. Caste thing came in a big way after that. Caste was a largely creation of British. Caste actually is not an Indian word; it's a Portuguese word. We had a varna, but the way British misused it in 19th century caste, they brought all the tribals, called them animists and all these things. Mm-hmm. They all were Hindus in their way. And you see there any person with an unbiased mind will say their worshipping nature is more closer to Hinduism than anything. Hinduism has a very wide range of this thing, but they were deliberately excluded from Hindu society, and one by one they divided. They created 1,000 Hinduism out of one so-called Hindu faith. So it's a long process. It just kept on happening.
So, but you see कि 1800s के अंदर वो change आना start हो गया था. There was a conscious thought, and that conscious thought, was it in the working from English who were in India or the English in Europe? Because the ones who were there, जो Britain से आए थे, there was another conflict going on. Geopolitics में उस time पे India was slowly becoming their colony, but the English were also in conflict with the French and the Portuguese and the Spanish. तो वो एक larger conflict भी चल रहा था. Where do you think कि ये thought process चलना कहाँ से start हुआ? ये वहीं से start हुआ, यूरोप के अंदर start हुआ, या ये process यहीं पर?
It started from Europe, obviously. Look at the people being sent to govern the country. Mm-hmm. They used to, for them, Mill's history was a primer. Okay. And Mill's history was it has all the negative things about this country. Everything wrong which we'll find in Mill's history about, and that was the basic primary source of book which all the civil servant had to read, understand, mug up, and come to this country. So they would come with a negative mindset. So by the time that was done, a problem happened that the English education also created Indians who were more than willing to be part of that Bharat anti sentiments. And then this process grew up. But unfortunately, this also continued after.
So even post-independence.
It continued even after independence.
So, but how do you think, or who were these Indians who were trying to, get in shape or get in cahoots with the British? And why is it that civilizationally, why did we fail to understand or gauge this idea or understand this idea that ये हो क्यों रहा है, what are the longer objectives? Because the civilization which has been so bright and smart for the longest time and who had been taking on the Islamic invasions, both which were culturally and violently, geographical expansion भी हो रहा था, a civilization which was taking on all of these onslaughts for this longer time, how did it happen? Or were there Indians also over in bed with the English कि कैसे
Absolutely.
वो change करना start हुआ?
Absolutely. The change cannot happen without the local support. They were, in fact, they continue to still remain. But I wanted to say a point. I think I missed the thread. So see what happens that in the 50s. In 1830s, and you just don't have Raja Ram Mohan Roy.
Yeah.
You also have Dayanand Saraswati. You see Arya Samaj. I admire that person, but you see his Arya Samaj ka basic core philosophy also suffers from similar apologetic this thing what Brahmo Samaj suffers from. So see the extent. Somebody as close to the Western and somebody as close to who says that go back to the Vedas. They also suffer from similar this thing, and it happened precisely for the reason because for 1,000 years. What Nepal said in his book brilliantly, he couldn't actually find the reason in his first book on India, the area of darkness, but his later book on this India Million Mutinies, he comes to that conclusion that 1,000 years of destruction, where the only thing which will come to the people's mind will be how to survive the next day or have the next day food. It is very difficult to think about the larger think about religion, philosophy, and everything. Existence itself was in a crisis. From there to survive, and that's why you see why suddenly new India, Naya Bharat is happening now when India is growing up. The 5 trillion economy. Because now we have money. We have that self confidence. We also have some backing of ourselves. We are confident about ourselves. We are not confident before. So that's what happens. This 1,000 years of tragedy, 1,000 years of violence, 1,000 years of one-upmanship. I think it is a miracle we survived. I think we should take it that way.
But इसके अंदर ना, and this is something that we argued in the book as well. Where does Nehru come into the picture? Or the idea of Nehru come into the picture? Is I'm asking pre-independence and post-independence impact of the larger Nehruvian phenomena, so to say.
Nehru came precisely for the reason, and that's why I wrote the book. My book is as much about New India because you see the narrative. In today's world, it's good to be good, but it's even better to be seen to be good.
Okay.
The narratives are very important. And it's always important, but with social media and everything, narratives really matter. It really matters. And narratives always matter. So, like we know that how narratives shape up about independence movement. Today we know that Gandhi ne बिना खड़ग और बिना तलवार के आज़ादी दिलवा दी. We know the reality is not the case. वो British खुद ही बोलते हैं. He had a minimal impact. But then the narrative was there. They set the narrative and they ruled for 7 decades. Now it's been questioned, but still, like I met one of the gentlemen in education ministry, and I said कि ये कब बदलेगा सर ये अभी भी हम वही पढ़ा रहे हैं कि गांधी ने सब दिलाया और किसी ने कुछ नहीं किया और another problem in medieval history. And the gentleman took pride in saying that no, but we are going slow. We want to be absolutely sure about that we don't do any mistake. I said if it takes us 9 years to be sure about that, then that's a problem with that. But he took pride in that he's being sure about that.
But do you think हमने ही like post independence politics ने गांधी को इतना बड़ा फिगर बना दिया कि जियोपॉलिटिकली हमारे लिए ज़रूरी हो गया to co-opt his ideas or just say कि उनके ideas ही brought the change in 1947?
I'm all with Narendra Modi's way of co-opting Gandhi. Gandhi is very useful in today's world because if you don't take Gandhi along, you'll be completely cornered. That's how the narrative being set. But you see how Gandhi has been misused. Gandhi has been misused to corner this country.
In fact, that story about the notes that we were discussing, 1927 में जैसे वो leadership नेहरू के जवाहरलाल नेहरू के पिताजी मोतीलाल से
Yes, yes.
जवाहरलाल नेहरू के पास जा रही थी. That's another story. I think you should share that.
Yeah, that is there in the book also. Like, Motilal Nehru became the president of the party. So when his term ended, his wife reached out to Gandhi and said, it's my earnest desire to see my son take over the Singhasan from his father. So that was the perception. She saw it that way, that that king and the Yuvraj will take over from her. So actually, I see it the Gandhi-Nehru dynasty starting not from 1947 or 46, but exactly 1928-29, and from there, Nehru was there. Nehru was the chosen one. He was the chosen, despite the fact that others came. Bose was more popular than that. In fact, during independence, I mean, that's why I have a problem with Nehru and the people who push for Nehru, saying that they basically use Nehru to target Modi, saying that look, that was the best phase of the Indian democracy, where liberalism was there, secularism was there, minorities were not attacked, books were not banned. And look what is happening today. And I say, okay, and that's where my critique of Nehru came. I thought it is best to take the two best phases. For if Ramchand Guha and gang say that Nehru phase was the best and everything was started after Indira Gandhi came to being. So let me take Nehru's phase and let me take Narendra Modi's phase and compare the 5-6 major important things.
For the perfect comparison that would be.
Like books banning. Tell me how many books were banned in the last 10 years? I don't think you'll remember a single name. Nehru banned almost 30 books.
30 books?
Almost 30 books and films. More than 30 books. So, no one talks about that. I'm sure some people are being jailed in the name of, this for criticizing people in Bengal and all this. But I don't remember anybody being jailed for criticizing Modi. I don't remember. There might be, but definitely not a big one, like Guljar being jailed. Do you know that Majid Sultan was jailed for 2 years just because he compared Nehru with Hitler? There is a poem where he compared Nehru with Hitler, and he was jailed for 2 years, more than 2 years. Now that's a sign of a great democrat.
What was the name?
Majid Sultan Puri. Majid Sultan, the great, the lyricist. He was jailed for over 2 years.
For the same.
Yes, 1949 to 51.
In fact,
just because he wrote a poem where he said that Nehru appears like a Hitler. Poem to लोग लिखते हैं. Poem is like that. Poem is more of a
exactly the same thing. मतलब
my biggest critic, Arjun, I'll just cut you this here, is the First Amendment, and that is available online. You go through online and see the debates. Some of the things which Nehru said about press and media and journalists are appalling. And this guy we project as a Mashiach of freedom. So fair enough, you do, but then bring out the truth about that. And in fact, some of the people we project as right-winger reactionary forces like Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, he supported First Amendment. So history is not exactly what has happened. History is what historians wanted us to believe, and historians closer to Nehru. My biggest problem with Nehru's being democrat is that the way he was selected. Out of 15 people who were there to choose to select the next prime minister, out of 15, 12 were in favor of Patel. Just 3 supported Nehru, and how can that be a democratic process of selection making?
This is 47.
Yes, just because Gandhiji wanted it. I believe that it wouldn't have changed much to the country. I'm not very
देश की दशा बदल जाती है.
Because 2 years he would have died, and Nehru was the second. He would have come and done the same thing. Maybe Kashmir ऐसा नहीं होता. Maybe something we would have escaped, but largely he would have come back to power. So वो हमारी destiny में थी. I think we had
Kashmir is also another matter ना. 70 साल तो हम उसी में थे.
Yes.
So this
but Kashmir में भी, and I wrote about that chapter. Kashmir is also interesting. We have missed the larger point. Kashmir mein Nehru can be accused of we are generally accused of taking Kashmir to UNSC. What I believe that Nehru had no choice. उसमें कोई भी होता ना, with the power pressure of US and all these things, and Britain was against us, हमें ले ही जाना पड़ता. Where Nehru ji made the mistake was to allow, out of his great love for Mountbattens, to allow him to remain the Viceroy Governor General of this country, and also allowed British army chiefs to remain in the control of Indian army and Pakistani army. So what happened, and this is on record, and Ras Gotra, this foreign secretary, has written in his book that Nehru had appealed to Indian army कि please go and invade and get my POK back. They refused. वो क्यों करेंगे? They wanted to create.
Nehru's
So basically, Nehru's love for this thing, and that's where it comes to the next chapter, where you came. That Nehru, British gave power not to forces which actually fought.
Okay.
Because then what happened? Then British foothold was completely over. They gave power who had the least resistance, who were seen as okay, we'll do the cosmetic changes. And in one of the things somewhere for Bengal, I think we were there in that thing. People use the term collaborators. I will not say they were collaborators, but they were somebody seen as not vehemently opposed to the idea of British. Like Nehru used to very happily call him the last Englishman in the country to rule. So power was given to them, very smartly given to them.
So not collaborators per se, but definitely people who are fine with the idea of English ways and functioning.
Exactly.
But
and that's why continued.
No, yes. So इसीलिए so there's a larger force at play जो अंग्रेजी हुकूमत थी. अंग्रेजी हुकूमत की इंक्लिनेशन वाले कुछ लोग थे, कुछ परिवार थे जो उनसे अलग अलग तौर तरीकों से उनसे फेवर्स भी लेते थे, which is why Nehru came to power.
Yes.
And which is why it suited, you are arguing, which is why it suited the English and the global power structure के अंदर जो power play के अंदर भी सूट करता था कि इंडिया की जो हुकूमत है या भारत की जो हुकूमत है वो उस राजा के पास जाए या उस प्रधानमंत्री के पास जाए जो उनके तौर तरीकों को अच्छे समझता हो. And which is why you say and Nehru became prime minister. If that is so, then Gandhi is also party to this, because it was Gandhi who was arguing the same thing. And another point being, I'm drawing you back, क्योंकि 27 की आपने बात की थी, गांधी जी को उस वक्त देश में आए हुए 10 से 15 साल हुए, 13-14 के अंदर वो देश में आए थे, एक्टिवली वो 1917 के अंदर देश में आए. वो हमने चंपारण मेरे ख्याल से सबसे पहला वो था, फिर अहमदाबाद, फिर खेड़ा सत्याग्रह. तो वो उन वर्षों के अंदर, सो 1917 के पास वो पॉलिटिकली एक्टिव हुए, 17 से 27 उन्होंने उसके बीच में एक मूवमेंट किया था, वो नॉन कोऑपरेशन मूवमेंट हुआ, और उसके बाद मुस्लिम्स के फेवर के लिए खिलाफत मूवमेंट, खिलाफत एजिटेशन और खिलाफत जो परपेट्रेशन हुई उसके बाद, जो क्राइसिस बना उसके बाद, तो ये उन्होंने किया. बट इन 10 years of time he became this powerful a force that an organization जो पिछले 50 सालों से, जब 85 के अंदर कांग्रेस बनी तो लगभग 85 से अगर हम 1927 के पास आए तो 40 साल के पास तक का ये जो समय है, उस 40 साल वाली ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जिसके अंदर इस देश के बड़े सारे और दिग्गज नेता मौजूद थे, उसके अंदर उन्होंने 10 साल के अंदर इतनी हुकूमत जमा ली कि गांधी के हुक्मरानों से चलता था कि अगला प्रेसिडेंट कौन बनेगा. अगर मोतीलाल नेहरू की अर्धांगिनी ना चाहती होती, जवाहरलाल नेहरू और गांधी को अपील ना करती तो नेहरू ना बनते. और नेहरू was very much an Englishman, and Gandhi had also spent a considerable time in English, England, and उनकी अलग एक हिस्ट्री चलती है. तो what can be argued कि गांधी was also in cahoots, and then of course 1947 के ना जैसे हुकूमत उनके पास गई, Nehru decided to do the same thing that perhaps his global powers or larger interests or his understanding of India, allowed him to do or made him do or wanted him to do. But then how did this larger change happen? So we've understood कि academia का एक बहुत बड़ा रोल रहा है post 1835 में कॉलेज मिनट. We know and we have a clear understanding of कि किस तरह से इस देश के अंदर सोच को बदला गया है. पर नेहरू का जो काल था, so 47 he became the prime minister, India became a republic in 50 till 62-63 he was fairly active in the scene. So 10-12-13 सालों के अंदर या 15 सालों के गैप के अंदर,
70 years actually.
70 years. So how would you say?
He did 46 to 64.
46 to 64. So इतने बड़े काल के अंदर where do you think or how do you think उनका इम्पैक्ट क्या रहा? क्यों वो, why could India not gain independence ideologically in 47? Because I also believe कि ये देश आज़ाद हुआ है, एक देश को नई आज़ादी मिली 2014 के अंदर, क्योंकि हमारी सोच को आज़ादी मिली है, उससे पहले मौका ही नहीं था. इनफैक्ट आर्ग्यूड फर्दर, मैं 2018-19 के अंदर एक डिबेट पर था उस डिबेट के अंदर यही पॉइंट हो रहा था, सब लोग बता रहे थे कि भाई अब हम ये लिखना स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं, अब हम हिंदू कॉजेज पे लिख रहे हैं, अब हम मंदिरों के ऊपर लिख रहे हैं, इस तरह के इशूज चल रहे थे. बट आई गॉट अ लिटिल वो अनकंफर्टेबल ऑन स्टेज. मेरे को ऐसा लगा था कि वी आर मिसिंग द लार्जर पॉइंट. 2014 में अगर प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी नहीं आए होते सरकार के अंदर, तो ये सोच जो है कि आज आप अपने हिंदू इंटरेस्ट की बात कर पाओ, आज आप अपनी सभ्यता की बात करो, आप सिविलाइजेशन की बात कर पाओ, ये इतना कॉन्फिडेंटली कोई व्यक्ति बोल ही नहीं पा रहा था. आपके पास किताबें कहाँ थी? एंड जहाँ तक कि मीडिया की बात है, मीडिया पे भी मैं आऊँगा थोड़ी देर के अंदर, पर मीडिया के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट ये है कि हम कितना कन्वीनियंटली गोदी मीडिया वो उठा दिया जाता है, फॉरगेटिंग कन्वीनियंटली कि 2001 से लेकर 14 तक जब प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी थे, उस वक्त मुख्यमंत्री थे, कौन सा ऐसा मीडिया चैनल है या कौन सा ऐसा हाउस था, कौन सी ऐसी डिबेट्स थी जिसके अंदर प्रधानमंत्री मोदी का, जो उस वक्त मुख्यमंत्री थे, उनका पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू बड़े बैलेंस तरीके से दिखाया गया हो? देयर इज एब्सोल्युटली नथिंग. मतलब 2014 से पहले 12 के पास मैं इस डिबेट के अंदर बहुत अच्छे से घुस चुका था. मुझे याद है कि 12 तक आपको कोई व्यक्ति नहीं मिलता था जो ये बोलता हो. बट देयर वाज ऑलवेज दिस अंडरकरंट आल्सो कि हाँ, कि देश का हाल बुरा हो रहा था एंड ये व्यक्ति सॉलिड है और इसके पास अगर पावर आएगी तो वो कुछ बदलाव करेंगे, जो 13-14 के अंदर हमने देखा एक लार्जर कैंपेन से. बट देन ड्रॉइंग यू बैक, पोस्ट 47, इम्पैक्ट ऑफ नेहरू, एंड कैसे ये एकेडेमिया के अंदर एक वो चेंज आया, या एकेडेमिया ने ये कैसे इंश्योर कर दिया कि देश आज़ाद होने के बाद भी वैचारिक तौर पर एकदम कुंठित रहा.
See, here I'll say that it's more to do with people, not just Nehru, but the ecosystem which we today call as Lutyens Delhi, Khan Market Gang, and whatever name we use it. That has been the same people who were very much the elitist people who shaped the way the India's narrative at the higher level worked before independence, from 20s, 30s, 40s. They gained the power. They became the Lutyens Delhi, and that's why my chapter is also there. And one example I've given, nothing against him, there was the Thappers. And today some of them are the topmost topmost historian. Some of the topmost people know them. I have nothing to do. Karan Thapa is topmost media person. One Thapa is topmost wildlife person. They are linked with the Nehru family. They are linked with the Kapoor families of Bollywood. So they were everywhere. And in the 20s also, you see the Thapas were involved. When the General Dyer thing happened, he was one of the supporters of what General Dyer did through money. So my point is, the same people today who dominate, and this is just an example. I'm using Thapas just for example.
Like many such families.
There must be like a dozen family, prominent one. Thapas are more like, I've mentioned about Raj Thapar book all these years, and his husband Ramesh Thapar. That book is a damning book about how Indira Gandhi's kitchen cabinet worked, and they were to push and promote anybody. In fact, there is one discussion where Ramesh Thapar asks Haskar, P.N. Haskar, that why did you put this particular gentleman, made him ambassador? He's an ass. He's a fool. And Haskar laughs and says, yeah, but he's also a lefty. So this is the criteria of how people were pushed and promoted, and no one talked about it because they belonged to that class of people where they were seen as entitled to rule or entitled to be in the corridor of power. So that's where the entire problem happened. The people who were seen as closer to British.
So in a span of 150 years, ऐसे entitled families आ चुकी थी.
Especially it happened after 20s. 20s when they started.
1920s or 1820s?
1920s. 1920s.
The Gandhi.
Yes, the Gandhi happened, and then it is with land owning societies, lawyers, and all these things. They started controlling it. And they had a very soft corner for because they were grown up, they educated in the British system, so they had that kind of thing that they used to see them with a lot of wow, we want to be like them. So that was the thing. Nehru's entire
and because these guys were in the leadership roles or were society people,
exactly.
so to say. So larger India also wanted to emulate them, or वो aspiration बन गई.
Aspiration से, I don't say aspiration, but it was more of I think there was more of anger, envy about these people. That's what Narendra Modi used. See, there is a reason why Narendra Modi is a politician par excellence. Today, if he is not,
he's a politician.
Politician par excellence. He knows what works with people.
Without doubt.
So, like today, he has disassociated himself with Lotians Delhi precisely because he knows that there are people. Majority of people who look at that with a lot of disgust and distrust.
How could he?
Yeah, how are this same set of people are ruling?
So वो अपनी बपौती समझते हैं.
Exactly, and see, I'll be honest with you, every country has the elite. Every country, French have, British, Americans have, both the family. India is unique in just one aspect. Since 1920s, if from 1947, definitely I believe 1920, these set of people were in power. Till 2014. That was the first time they were actually jolted out. They're still not out of power. Let's not fool ourselves. I know how they still control publishing. Okay. They are still there, very much there. But what has happened that some doors have been opened. They still
control publishing?
Publishing they control, I know for sure. I mean, you also know, your books have come out. And in section of media. And it is obvious. See, a class of people in power since 1920. Almost like 100 years, unprecedented in the world. और सब जगह क्या होता है कि 10 साल रहे, दूसरे set of elite आ गए.
Next generation, they gave it to the next
यहाँ
generation.
change ही नहीं हुआ. Even when like Vajpayee ji came, completely so-called right-wing government, all he wanted to do was he wanted to be part of that Lutyens club, and he wanted the legitimacy from them. He gave Bharat Ratna to Amartya Singh. You can see that they were seeking out approval from them. It was only in 2014 that the desire to seek legitimacy from them ended.
So where do you see Arjun Kadian ji in that picture?
Arjun Kadian was part of that system, obviously.
But he understood where...
He was a smart politician. He was a smart politician. He and that's how Arjun Kadian was closest to Advani. And yet he was also closest to Narendra Modi. That shows there are many people I know, including some in media, who are very big journalists who could not make the transition from Advani to Modi, and they perished in the way. So, and that's hats off to him. And also, see, he had his utility. Narendra Modi came from outside. He was outsiders. He needed someone also to at least, to make him realize, okay, who works what, who kya hai. This is a new world for him. So that's where the role of, Jetli, and Jetli also had Modi's trust. Jetli was very close to him, to his credit, when this Godhra all the cases happened and everything. Jetli was with Modi. So they had a different personal equation also, which came into thing. But Jetli was primarily a part of this Lutyens Delhi.
But then so one is agreed that post-independence, because of Nehruvian ways and functioning and practices, एक academia के अंदर वो ecosystem flourish हुआ, which was not psychologically, भारतीय, और इस देश की सभ्यता को बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं समझते थे. समझ इस बात की थी कौन सी चीज़ बाहर चमकेगी, कौन सी चीज़ बाहर अप्रूव होगी, कौन सी चीज़ इंग्लिश क्लब्स के अंदर, एलीट सोसाइटी के अंदर उनको और प्रॉस्पर करने में मदद करेगी. फॉर इंस्टेंस 70s 80s के अंदर इंडियन या भारतीय आर्ट्स पर जो लोग बड़े ड्राइंग्स रहे हैं उनको इतना प्रोपोगेट नहीं किया जाता था, बट रादर वो डिज़ाइनर्स प्रोपोगेट होते थे या वो प्रॉस्पर होते थे हु वुड से कि कैसे वो टर्की के अंदर इस तरह की कार्विंग है, या इस्तांबुल के अंदर इस तरह की टाइल्स हैं, या ईरानियन टाइल्स कैसी है, पर्शियन आर्किटेक्चर कैसे है, फॉरगेटिंग वेरी क्लियरली कि
the people who look for this गंगा जमुनी तहजीब,
all that. So वो वाली क्लास जो है वो इस देश के अंदर फ्लरिश कर रही थी. डिपार्चर यू आर्ग्यू प्राइम मिनिस्टर नरेंद्र मोदी के आने से आया. नाउ नरेंद्र मोदी जी आर प्राइम मिनिस्टर, बिलवड प्राइम मिनिस्टर, ही कम्स विद, आज़ादी के बाद उस दौर के अंदर वो पैदा हुए. वी नो के उन्होंने बाल्यकाल स्वयं सेवक रहे, बट बहुत ज़्यादा एक्टिव नहीं थे उस वक्त आरएसएस के अंदर. 17 साल की उम्र के पास देश भ्रमण किया, देश को अच्छे से जाना समझा, साधु संतों के साथ रहे, उनके साथ एक्सपोज हुए, ये समझने की कोशिश की कि मंदिरों के अंदर और हमारे धर्मशास्त्रों के अंदर क्या लिखा है, हमारे धर्म स्थानों की क्या भूमिका है, कैसे ये देश संगठित रहता है हमारे मंदिरों के आसपास. फिर कैसे स्वामी विवेकानंद जी के अनुयायियों के साथ उन्होंने काम किया. साउथ में आश्रम भी गए, फिर आश्रम से वापस आए. संघ ज्वाइन किया, संघ के थ्रू रैंक्स में बढ़े, 10-15 वर्ष उन्होंने संघ को पूरे अपने जीवन के दिए और स्वयंसेवक रहते हुए बहुत काम किया, इस देश की जड़ों को समझा। फिर उसके बाद वो पार्टी के अंदर जब 1980 के बाद जब जनता पार्टी गिरी, सरकार गिरी, तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी जब बनी उसके कुछ सालों के बाद वो स्टेट के गवर्नमेंट स्टेट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन यूनिट के मेंबर बने, वहाँ पे फ्लरिश किया, वहाँ पे यात्राएं लेकर आए, नए कॉन्सेप्ट्स लेकर आए, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और पीपल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और पीपल को ऑर्गेनाइज करने का, मासेस को ऑर्गेनाइज करने का तरीके वो लेकर आए। बड़ी इनोवेटिव चीज़ें यूज़ की। ही वॉज अ प्रोग्रेसिव मैन इन द सेंस के टेक्नोलॉजी को यूज़ किया, वेरी मॉडर्न इन द सेंस के उस टाइम पे जो मास मीडिया के अंदर जो चीज़ें या प्रोमिनेंट चीज़ें हैं उनको यूज़ करना स्टार्ट किया। एंड देन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में काम करते हुए हरियाणा भी गए, हिमाचल भी गए, अलग अलग जगह किया। एंड देन ही केम बैक टू हिज ओन स्टेट गुजरात और मुख्यमंत्री बने। तो एक लंबा काल है जिसके अंदर उन्होंने इस देश को बहुत अच्छे से और बहुत करीबी से समझा है। ये समझ सेट्स अपार्ट दो व्यक्तियों को, एक व्यक्ति जिसने थ्योरेटिकल नॉलेज ली है उस व्यक्ति से जो उसके बॉस ने या उसके टीचर ने उसे पढ़ाया है, और दूसरा व्यक्ति वो है जो ग्राउंड पर रहकर इस देश को समझा है, इस देश के समाज को समझा है, संगठन को समझा है, पार्टी को समझा है, लार्जर ऑब्जेक्टिव्स को समझा है, थॉट प्रोसेस बनाया है। क्योंकि आज अगर लोग बात करते हैं कि प्रधानमंत्री कौन सी चीज़ क्यों कर रहे हैं, आप यू कैन ट्रेस बैक हिज थॉट्स टू डेकेड्स, कि वो उससे पहले उन्होंने डिसाइड कर ले रहे हैं। 370 की जैसे बात आती है, वो अर्ली 90s में डिसाइड कर लिया था। बाबरी की बात करें, अर्ली 90s के अंदर उन्हें क्लियर था कि भाई राम मंदिर बनाना है, एंड देन ही कंसिस्टेंटली वर्क फॉर इट फॉर 30 long years. So that's a long and short of the man that we have as Prime Minister of the country, with that focused approach, very modern in the sense के अंडरस्टैंडिंग है किस चीज़ की क्या भूमिका है, क्या रोल है, प्रोएक्टिव गवर्नेंस की बात करें, होल ऑफ गवर्नमेंट अप्रोच की बात करें, these are some innovations that he has brought in. But then what has been the role of media in Prime Minister Narendra Modi's life, one as an administrator? I want to bring that story out, क्योंकि हम बड़ा कन्वीनियंटली ये भूल जाते हैं, which is something I discussed earlier as well in the podcast, कि we tend to forget the sense कि हम आज जैसे गोदी मीडिया की बात कर देते हैं, लोग ऑपोजिशन बड़ा बोलता है गोदी मीडिया। आप सोनिया गांधी या मनमोहन सिंह के बारे में आप कोई डिबेट्स पढ़ ही नहीं पा रहे थे उस टाइम पे, उनका ऑपोजिशन कहाँ था? या आपने सारा का सारा जो एक विरुलेंट डिबेट थी which was उनके when नरेंद्र मोदी जी was being discussed was heavily against him. And वही आइडिया पोस्ट 2014 में बहुत लोग उसी झंडे को फहराए जा रहे हैं इन द होप कि उससे कुछ निकलेगा। तो आई वॉन्ट यू टू पुट इन कॉन्टेक्स्ट कि कैसे एकेडेमिया जो बहुत लंबे टाइम से चल रहा था, जो लेफ्टिस्ट था, एकेडेमिया का एक डायरेक्शन था, वो कैसे ट्रांजिशन हो रहा है इन द 21st सेंचुरी। एंड 21st सेंचुरी में 2000 से 2014 के बीच में क्या थॉट प्रोसेस था, इस देश की हालत क्या थी?
I'll be honest, change is there since last year, but change is slow. बहुत radical change नहीं है. Maybe that's how I think also power that we want change to be very slow and seamless. But I believe, frankly speaking, यदि आप मुझसे बोलेंगे, if had I been the detector of Modi, मैं उनका opposition में रहता, तो मैं जो Modi, the way media handle Modi, I would have completely censored that media. Modi is the creation largely. Modi came into the people's imagination first and foremost because thanks to this media which was biased against him, prejudiced against him. He made him larger than life. You read Gujarat Riot book, that lady.
Madhukeshwar?
No. Madhukeshwar. That foreign author who wrote on that. There's the British author. I'm forgetting the name of the author.
Come again, what's the name of the book?
It's from Modi's biography. Marino. You read the book and you find that Modi did whatever he could have done. Very honestly, he wrote about that book, and that he got the army in time and everything. But then it was already, the anchor was there. You just can't, army has a number, police has a number. You just can't contain it beyond a point. कुछ तो होगा. If there has been somewhere negligence, it happened in 1984, because where they let it just happen and people getting killed on the roads of Delhi. But the way media projected it, I think media made him a complete one-person army fighting against the entire system. I think and Modi played along beautifully with that. Modi initially, you see, you read Madhu Kishwar's this thing, you realize that Modi initially tried reaching out to this section of people. He was very eager and curious to reach out to them, tell his point of view. By 2007-8, I suppose he realized that it's a one-way traffic. He has been trying, but like one of the biographer, I'll not name his dear to me. He used to write for me a while back, and he was a biographer of Modi. Initially, he reached out with a lot of this thing that will present the true picture. By the second half of the book, he realized that now he also had to now pamper the establishment who was there. So he turned around and wrote a bit of a hit job too. And so my thing is that had there not been this calibrated and orchestrated attack campaign against Modi might not have been the phenomenon who actually became in 2014. He was also made. He was made like a one man who was fighting the entire system, and Modi understood that. By 2007, he understood.
But why do you say that? Or how do you argue कि larger audience उसको इस तरह से देख रही थी? क्योंकि larger audience
because people could connect. See, जनता है, public है, सब जानती है. लोग बेवकूफ नहीं है. People, I remember I was talking to one of the guys very close to Rajnath Singh, and he said that Rajnath Singh categorically was the president when he was selected as a PM at this time. And there were factions in BJP against him, very strong ones, including Advani ji. And then Rajnath Singh said,
and their opposition
reportedly said that if we don't push him, there will be rebellion in the cadre. हम खत्म हो जाएंगे. Cadre जब उसके साथ है. So point is this, see, it's all good. Delhi politics is fine, but he somehow could connect with the larger masses. So that connection, he could like not wearing the skull cap. My point is, it's a very simple thing, but he understood that symbolism of one single act, or even not reaching out to Lotian Delhi. He could have easily done it. After 5 years, he would have done it. But he didn't do it because he knows that this thing is a very symbolic gesture. He's a very good politician also. And he understands the psyche of the people. And that's why he could also, if you see him, he takes a lot of risks in life, politics. Somebody who couldn't get demonetization in the country, you can know that he's a risk taker. Somebody who can do Balakot, he's a risk taker. But he's understood. That's why I realized reading one of the book by Ajay Singh on the BJP.
Architect of the new
yes.
BJP.
And he makes the point that that Modi, he writes that Modi believes that that आप अपना काम करो. And you put it forward honestly, जनता समझ जाएगी. So he has that trust. And that's why some of the things which today, if you look at from 2016 में क्या कर दिया नोटबंदी, यार पागल है क्या? For a common sensical, it's not a common sensical act. But then look how he did it. So that's what sets him apart. That's what sets him apart.
But then, so किताब के अंदर और भी बातें हैं. एक एंटी ब्राह्मणिज्म का और उसका जेनेसिस या उस आइडिया को आपने एक ऐसे में अच्छे से डिस्कस किया है. Why don't you tell us a bit about this कि उसका राइज कहाँ से हो रहा है? बिकॉज एंटी ब्राह्मणिज्म 2-4 डिबेट्स है. साउथ इंडिया के अंदर द्रविडियन डिबेट भी लेकर आता है एंड नॉर्थ इंडिया के अंदर कास्ट इक्वेशंस को डिस्कस करने के लिए भी आता है. और ये एक पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को भी सेट आउट करता है, क्योंकि अगर आप याद करें तो फॉर द लॉन्गेस्ट टाइम बीजेपी वो ट्रीटेड एज के ब्राह्मण बनिया की पार्टी है. ठीक, नॉट रियलाइजिंग द फैक्ट कि बीजेपी वॉज द पार्टी. इनफैक्ट 80s और 90s के अंदर बीजेपी ही वो पार्टी थी जिसके अंदर सबसे ज़्यादा पढ़े लिखे लोग हुआ करते थे. अगर आप वकील हैं, अगर आप इंटेलेक्चुअल हैं, अगर आप
मिडिल क्लास पार्टी थी.
मिडिल क्लास पार्टी थी और उसके अंदर वही लोग थे जो पढ़ लिख के आगे बढ़ना चाह रहे हैं. ठीक, तो एक लार्जर आइडिया ना, जो एक और चीज़ हुई थी ना 2014 के बाद कि नहीं भाजपा के अंदर पढ़े लिखे लोग नहीं है, वो नथिंग कुड बी फार फ्रॉम द ट्रूथ. सो ये जो बदलाव है कि पीएम का या फिर एंटी ब्राह्मणिज्म का, कास्ट इक्वेशन का, ये सारा का सारा, इसके बारे में व्हाट इज द स्टोरी बिहाइंड इट, व्हाट इज द ट्रेजेक्टरी?
एंटी ब्राह्मणिज्म इज इनहेरेंटली एंटी हिंदुइज्म. And I'll associate a part with which I started my book. Is basically the way temples are being controlled by state. That's also part of it. Because just like Brahmins, temples are also like not just about a place of worship. Temples were a place where which controls the daily life of common people, Hindus. They used to make roads. They used to बांध बनाते थे. They used to patronized dancers. Some of the dancers we survived today precisely because temples were there.
They were all temple dances.
Exactly.
भगवान की पूजा
Exactly. उसको हमने वो गलत नाम दे दिया, हमने वो मैलेज किया. But the thing is, it happened. And similarly, literature, craft, and everything. Temple was an axis around which Hindu society revolved till the time British came.
Okay.
British saw to it, and that's why anti-Brahmanism also started during the British time. जो डुबोई की जो book है, which I mentioned in the book, it says categorically says that if you want to convert this country, you have to get rid of Brahmins. Till the time they are there, you can't convert. So you can see where the anti-Brahmanism comes in.
The idea of anti-Brahmanism.
Yes, that was where. And now you take it forward to Dravidian this thing. Dravidian is what? Dravidian is nothing but anti-Hinduism. It's not about anti-Brahmanism. If you why are you destroying the murti of Ganesha or Shiva? Mm-hmm. They are not Brahmins or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So basically, it was Brahmanism was an excuse to target, just like temples were an excuse to enfeeble the Hindu society. Mm-hmm. And that's why I make a point very, some people were quite dissing. When I say that, that Hindu society, this country needs temple liberation even earlier than even UCC. For Hindus, that matter more for them. And that's quite a provocative. People say, but I have a reason why I say that.
Mm-hmm. But दो चीज़ें कि एंटी ब्राह्मनिज्म और एंटी ब्राह्मनिकल एक्ट के लिए वो प्री इंडिपेंडेंस बड़ी सारी डिबेट और लिटरेचर स्टार्ट हो गया था विच वाज बीइंग प्रोपगेटेड बाय द इंग्लिश एज अ थॉट कि अगर वी वांट टू रूल दिस कंट्री प्रॉपर्ली
एंड दिस कंटिन्यूड आफ्टर दैट
एंड दिस कंटिन्यूड आफ्टर
यू सी सिनेमा फॉर
सो आई वांट टू नो कि राइट एट 49 के अंदर क्या हुआ था एंटी ब्राह्मनिज्म एंड इनफैक्ट you argued in the book कि वो बड़ी accidentally document हो गए. There was no chance कि उसके बारे में कोई लिखना चाह रहा था.
Yes. And अभी तक कुछ नहीं हुआ.
And there are many congressmen जो उसको support.
So it happened that the Gandhi when he was assassinated, and on which also I believe that his assassination actually hurt Hindu community society more than anybody else, and actually helped the Nehruvian setup.
Okay.
This is my absolute, and I can argue on that because if anybody who got benefit out of it. What was the Nehruvian setup? Because Gandhi would have been the biggest critic in 5 years down the line had he survived. With all these, state-run economy and everything, which Gandhi was already getting difficult. He was already sidelined. They stopped talking to him, including this thing.
They had stopped talking to him?
Gandhi was completely marginalized by that time. No one was reaching out to him. And you can see it. Makaran has written on his book, Gandhi and Afterlife, that's the name of the book. And when he hints at that there was an ample this thing that they set on the life of Gandhi. Mm-hmm. Ample evidence, and you don't need also because everyone were unhappy with the way he used to say that don't we should live in the house vacated by Muslims in Delhi and everything, or give 47 crore to Pakistan. Public mood was against him. People say, "Yaar, Buddha mar jaye." That's how the sentiment. So it was not difficult for the state government to or the government to realize that they were threat on him. Mm-hmm. Still, nothing was done. There were hardly 15 people protecting him in his where he was shot, and that happened 10 days after a previous attempt had happened. So ऐसा भी नहीं कि first time हुआ, एक attempt हो गया 20 तारीख को, वहाँ भी वो कुछ नहीं हुआ, उसके बाद भी there were no beef up. So it was kind of very indifference towards him. I see the state's indifference towards him.
So not in cahoots, but in indifference.
And look at it, what happened once he dies. Hindu society completely took the blame on itself, and took them 30 years to come out of that Atmaglani ki hum involved थे, because they were told. State all India radio में आया था ये बात कि एक हिंदू ने मारा गांधी को, so that people don't start killing each other. So that's why.
वही जो Nazi Germany feel करता है about Islam.
Yes. So when he was killed, so that's where attack on Brahmins started. First in Maharashtra. Mm-hmm. And very first day, then our press didn't report about it. New York Times reports that 15 people were killed and so many people were wounded and everything. That's the thing. That's the first day. And it was accidentally recorded by one American academician who was in India doing some other research. Mm-hmm. And then it was recorded by that person. So.
But who were killing these Brahmins?
It was done precisely by the people sympathetic to. See, it first started with the attacking people with the name of Godse surnames. Okay.
So Chitpavan Brahman.
Yeah, Chitpavan Godse. Even like the brother of Savarkar just survived. Never survived. His head was broken and everything. And it was such a widespread that people from villages they completely went out, and this was orchestrated because the chief minister of central provinces has written it very gloatingly in his own book that हमने तो मारा था जी, because उनके तो वो ठप्पा था ना, we fought against all these people. So this happened right after independence.
तो साइकोलॉजिकली भी हमारा समाज भी, हिंदू समाज भी इतना बढ़ चुका था बाय दैट टाइम कि हम अपने ही समाज के लोगों को, हिंदू समाज अपने ही समाज के लोगों को मार रहा था, सिर्फ एक एलीट उसको या फिर एक सेलेक्ट लॉबी को.
और क्या है ना, थोड़ा सा ये भी है कि महाराष्ट्र में एक थोड़ा सा एंटी ब्राह्मण सेंटिमेंट है, स्पेशली विद पेशवा एंड वो हिस्टोरिकल है रीजन उसका. पेशवा और आपको उसमें कि हाँ गलत हुआ, पेशवा ने शिवाजी के उसमें गलत किया, बट दीज पीपल दे प्रोवोक्ड and utilized it, and later what happened in Tamil Nadu. There's a classic case example. Nepal writes in his book, it was terrible being a Brahmin in Tamil Nadu.
So but where do we stand today in terms of or at least where we're standing in the 21st century on caste matters? Brahmanism, Dalit struggle, क्योंकि इवन अम्बेडकर फॉर दैट मैटर, एक आर्गुमेंट ये भी दिया जाता है, अम्बेडकर डिड नॉट डाई अ हिंदू, बट ही डिड नॉट इवन डाई एज अ मुस्लिम. He
categorically said that he didn't want to be part of it. He chose a religion, specifically a religion which is closer to Indic tradition.
Dharmic faith.
Yeah, and that's the thing. See, we have to be very honest that they defending the atrocity in the name of caste. It has happened. I have a problem when you say that was the defining factor. No, that was not. Just like Sati was not a defining factor of Hindu culture, Hindu religion. It was not. It was just a few minuscule incident happening, which Lord Bentinck, with our Indian supporters, made it a national issue. Okay. There were a few. Some things were happening, which Meenakshi Jain writes in her book and categorically debunks it, that it was not as widespread as made out to be. It was just to give a bad name to Hinduism. So similarly here, that is the case.
Okay. So post 2014. कई ऐसे now I want to take the argument there are two streams of thought. One is geopolitics and diplomacy, and another one is the idea of cultural resurgence that is happening under Modi's regime. First we pick cultural resurgence for the part. We've understood largely anti-Brahmanism और एक वो डिस्कस कर लिया, but टेम्पल्स के बारे में और यूसीसी के बारे में यू हैव आर्ग्यूड दैट यूसीसी इतना इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है जितना इंपॉर्टेंट टेम्पल्स हैं, क्योंकि यूसीसी के बारे में मुस्लिम समाज की महिलाएं भी आगे आकर बोलना स्टार्ट हो चुकी हैं कि भाई दे वांट सम रिफॉर्म्स इन पर्सनल लॉज, बट यूसीसी मेनी वेज बिकॉज ऑफ द लीडरशिप एंड बिकॉज ऑफ द लार्जर कंसेंसस व्हिच इज रिक्वायर्ड और व्हिच इज वेरी मच नीडेड, जो हमारा समाज है इस टाइम पे, देश जिस कस्ब पे खड़ा है उसमें यूसीसी इंपॉर्टेंट है. बट टेम्पल्स के बारे में क्या विचार है, क्योंकि there's a difference between how temples are functioning and historically how temples have flourished in North India and South India. Now, South India, the ecosystem around temples was very much flourishing till the 20th century. But the North Indian temples were destructed, destroyed. Sitaram Gurudji and many other people who documented those stories. In fact, बड़ी gloriously ये लिखा जाता था कि भाई ये मंदिर तोड़ दिया, इस मंदिर के ऊपर ये मस्जिद बनाई गई है. तो बड़ा डिफरेंस है नर्मदा के ऊपर और नीचे के अंदर. तो ये लार्जर फ्रीइंग हिंदू टेम्पल्स डिबेट में वेयर डू यू सी दिस आर्ग्यूमेंट कहीं पे होनी चाहिए, एंड वेयर डू यू सी मोदी इन दैट लार्जर सेंस ऑफ बीइंग दैट हिंदू हृदय सम्राट?
First of all, I believe that country needs UCC. There is no denying that part. My argument is that for Hindu per se, when Muslim society is not ready yet, that they shouldn't just make it their prestige issue. For them, there are more pressing issues which is still awaiting, including temples. Right of education, including that also I mentioned, right? RT is also very important. But let's stick to temple issue. And one of the reasons why I also have against this UCC is that we don't know how UCC will look when it comes. Okay. So when Hindu Code Bill came, we had many in fact inheritance laws in the country, indigenous ones. Some of them were very progressive, pro-women and all. So what we did, we went for the middle point. So बहुत progressive भी नहीं है, बहुत regressive भी नहीं है. We went there. I fear that अभी हमने तो surrender कर दिया. We already accepted it. अब just to satisfy, and that's what happened. That's why I'm also against the idea of talking to Pakistan. We bargaining chip नहीं है. Hindus have no bargaining chip. We have already surrendered. हमने 50% surrender कर दिया. What if today government, out of the guilt feeling, यदि हमने बहुत मानी मुसलमानों से बहुत तो कर दिया, हिंदू थोड़ा सा ले लेते हैं, हम क्या bargaining देंगे, हम तो already दे दिया. So where we'll go there? So my point is that till the time we don't see what is there in the UCC, we shouldn't be too excited about it. On a principle, Indian society, secular society needs it. Temples may see, I'm very categorically positioned. Why should Hindu temple be only controlled by state when the same is not applied to other religious institutions?
Okay.
But again, I was asked by one of my friends, and I was quite bored by that question. He said, no, but for national interest, you can do that. You are 80% population, हो आप कर सकते हो, आपको तो डरने की जरूरत नहीं है. Now that's when I said, okay, but then I realized when I went through the data, SRMS data, it says that of the temple land, Tamil Nadu mein, he's doing a fabulous job there, SRMS in Tamil Nadu, single-handedly. That's why many people are single-handedly fighting their cause. He's saying that out of the land taken by the state, the rent the state receives is just 1% of what they should be receiving. So 99% goes to the corrupt.
Okay.
So it's not helping the state too. It's helping the corrupt. So why should Hindu society help the corrupt? It's not helping the thing. It's not helping the Hindu society. It's also not helping the state. Now the third point, which is most important, is that that this gives a very bad perception about Hindus, and I think Hindus need to wake up. And that's why I think I don't blame Narendra Modi that 10 years he had done nothing about Hindu temples, because I think substantial part of Hindus also believe that ठीक है state कर रही है, corruption नहीं है, ठीक ठाक तो करा रही है. I think that feeling is there somewhere, and that's where I think the problem is. कि you are kind of falling to the prey that you are not capable enough to run your institutions. Well, this is very colonial way of looking at Hindus and this thing. So state is also doing it, and unfortunately some part of quite a large number of Hindus also, I think, I suspect, believe it. And that's why otherwise, had there been movement, I'm sure government will bow down. There's no reason. But another reason I believe why it's difficult for a government to not get rid of this liberate Hindu temples is, I think, the kind of the socialistic policies we play. Everyone wants to give 4 rupees mein chawal, 2 rupees mein aata. So itna free paisa kahan se aayega? Temples are a very good place. They can get whatever they want to. So
and where is Prime Minister Modi ji in the larger Hindu Hriday Samrat, what he's done for the civilization? क्योंकि beginning with, say, अभी राम मंदिर की प्राण प्रतिष्ठा हुई है, राम मंदिर बन गया है, काशी मथुरा पे डिबेट चालू हो चुका है, एक लार्जर कॉन्वर्सेशन 4000 मंदिरों के ऊपर भी आया है कि 4000 मंदिरों पे कुछ करना है. ये एक डिबेट चल चुका है. 370 की बात, 40,000 सर. सो इस पूरे लार्जर पैराडाइम के अंदर कि what has been Modi's significant role in achieving this larger objective for the Hindu civilization?
See, you take out
state?
Modi from the scheme of things, and everything falls apart. I'm sorry to. Then I'll not go that far as Arjun sorry went. That BJP is Congress plus cow. I think BJP is Congress plus Modi. So you remove Modi from the scheme of things, I think things falters big time. So he is very inherent part, very integral part of the thing. So yeah, I believe that without him, I think he needs to be given credit for that. And I think he has done it very smartly. Somewhere he went slow. I believe that he could have been faster in the school textbooks, temples issue and everything. But I'm sure he understands. He must.
He would have wanted that all earlier, but we've been waiting for it for 70 years already. Yeah,
but whatever he achieved was from whether 370 ho, chahe Balakot ho, chahe whatever it is. I think those all were incredible things which we thought we'll never see. Or even Ayodhya. I met many people. They were misty eyes saying that I don't believe I would see this day.
Absolutely.
And I'm seeing it.
Kal Sham, I was speaking to a man who was in his early 80s. My question to him was the same. कि आपने imagine किया था कि 90s का दौर, आपने समाज देख रहे थे, दुनिया देख रहे थे, politically connected थे, तो आपको दुनिया दिख रही थी कैसे evolve कर रही है. तो आप उस दशक के अंदर आप imagine कर पा रहे थे कि एक ऐसा दौर आएगा कि राम मंदिर बन जाएगा. तो his eyes were moist and he said, चांस ही नहीं. दूर से सोच नहीं सकते थे. इतना ज़्यादा dominance था ये larger liberal ecosystem, leftist ecosystem और कांग्रेसी और गांधी परिवार नेहरू परिवार का जो dominance था, वो इतना ज़्यादा था कि उनके paradigm या उनके world view के अलावा आप कुछ सोच ही नहीं सकते इस देश के अंदर possibilities में. And in fact, I'm also working on a book which tries to cover कि 2014 why is it such a defining factor not just for democracy but for the governance in the country as well. कि इतने सारे आयाम हैं, हर आयाम के अंदर कुछ ना कुछ बदलाव आया है, चाहे आप इकोनॉमी देखें, चाहे आप इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर देखें, चाहे आप कल्चर देखें, सिविलाइजेशन देखें, हमारी फॉरेन पॉलिसी देखें, डिप्लोमेसी देखें, हिंदूज एज और भारतीय ऑल अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड, वो उनमें जो एक रिसर्जेंस आई, एक सेंस ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस आया, वो आप पहले इमेजिन नहीं कर पा रहे थे.
Look at Abu Dhabi yesterday. So photos from Abu Dhabi, unprecedented.
Who would have thought that the
Unprecedented.
situation changed?
Exactly.
So much has come around and much has changed, and I think we've had a fairly long conversation. And but you see, हम जहाँ पर conversation ख़त्म कर रहे हैं, this वो एक sense तब उसी क्लोजिंग नोट के अंदर भी आ रहा है कि कितने सारे और टॉपिक्स हैं जिसके बारे में हम बात कर सकते हैं, जो शायद इतनी अच्छे से हम बात नहीं कर पाए, और परहैप्स और डिबेट लंबा चलना चाहिए, डिस्कशन लंबा चलना चाहिए. बट फॉर दैट ऑफ कोर्स वन पीपल शुड पिक योर बुक, हैव अ रीड, get a sense of your ideas and what you bring to the table. And मुझे ये बोलने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, but there's a long list of endorsement, वामसी जलूरी से लेकर अश्विन सांगी, फ्रांसे, गौतम सेन, कॉनराड एल्स्ट, पवन वर्मा as well, मोहनदास भाई, कमल सिब्बल, शोपन दास गुप्ता, so and forward by Hardeep Singh Puri ji as well. So it's a very well endorsed book, and I think जो आइडियाज़ हमने यहाँ पर आज डिस्कशन किए हैं, वो आइडियाज़ और प्रोपोगेट भी होना चाहिए, उनके बारे में और लोगों को पता होना चाहिए. एंड ये कोशिश की जा सकती है कि एक तो हम एक और पॉडकास्ट करें, एंड ये जो डिबेट्स हैं और ये जो टॉपिक्स हैं, ये लार्जर मासेस पे बहुत ज़्यादा पहुंचने चाहिए थे. बट देन वी हैव लिमिटेड टाइम, बट देन परहैप्स आई विल सीक टाइम फ्रॉम यू अगेन. But thank you very much for coming on the show. Thank you very much for doing this recording. बहुत अच्छा लगा, and I congratulate you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.